Welcome back to the Data Corner. This is Ali, your instructor, and today we will go over a very practical project where we will set up and send birthday emails for different employees using Microsoft Power Automate and Google Sheets. Without further ado, let's get started. So let's head over to powerautomate.com or make.powerautomate.com. If you do not have a Power Automate ID, you can sign up easily. I have already created a video on detailed process of sign up. I will add a link to the description. Right, so on the home page, let's go to create. Let's click on scheduled cloud flow because we want this flow to run at a specific time of each day. So let's click on it. Let's give it a good name. So let's call it send employee or send birthday emails. Starting is this at 10 a.m. That's fine. Repeat every one day. So this will need to check every day for any new birthday emails need to be sent. Click on create. And you can see your first step has been created. That says recurrence, interval 1, frequency day, which is fine. Here you can change the time as well. So for example, it says 0 or 10 hours. So if you want it to run at 9 a.m., you can simply select 9 here and it says runs at 9 every day. Click on next. So we basically need to do two things here. One thing is to figure out a way to add a unique image each time to the email body. We will basically save all of our images in a separate website from where we can directly link these. So let me open that up. Okay, so I already created an account here, image BB. Let's look at the pictures I have. So you can see I have uploaded 6 images here. And with each email, I want this to pick an image randomly and insert it or embed it in the email body. So this is one step. And the second step is to filter the data that is being retrieved from Google Sheets only for today's date. So for example, if today is December 21, we just want the data to be filtered for these 2 rows, and then we will use the appropriate email IDs from here and send the email. Right now, I have put my email on all of the emails, obviously, because I want to test this data. In your case or in practically, you will replace this column with the individual email IDs for each employees. Great. So first, let's look at how we can load data from Sheets and filter the data. So let's do that first. Let's say Sheets, and this should give you the option. So what you need to get is get rows. So this will normally ask you to connect with the Google Drive or Google account, Gmail account. Since I already have my account connected, you can see it shows the connection here. You will probably need to connect this here. So it says pick the file. So let's click on the folder. So open up the Google Drive. So the sheet name is employee birthdays. So let's select it. Says worksheet. So I did not change the tab name. So you can see sheet 1 here. So we selected sheet 1 here. We don't need to use any of the advanced options. So we don't want to select any top rows or skip rows. So just hide this, click on save. And as a good rule of thumb, we would try to test our flow regularly. So let's test our flow. Click on manually test. We just want to see if we have retrieved our data from the sheets correctly. Looks like it ran successfully. Let's click on get rows and see if we can look at data. All right, says outputs. Let's see what we have. All right, so this probably does not look legible to you, but you can see the data is in there. So you say email and you have birthday, age, hire date. So the data is there, but it's just not readable to us in a good format. Okay, this might be a bit better with pretty print. So you can see it's in a JSON format. So you have employee name, his title, then you have the next one, and so on and so forth. It means that we have successfully read the data from the sheets. So let me close this. Let's go back to edit, click on new step. So the next step we need to figure out a way to filter only the entries that match with the current date. Today is December 21st, and we only want to filter these 2 lines. It could be one row or it could be multiple rows, but ideally we would design our code for multiple rows. And if it's just one row, then it would work fine as well. So for that, we will use filter array. So let me search filter array. So inside of data operations, you can see it says filter array data operations. So select it. And here we'll say from array to filter. We only have one step here, so we only see one dynamic content. Once you have more steps here, you will see dynamic content from each step here. So let's select records value. Next, it will give you a list of columns. So you can see these column names are same to what we have here. So the column we need is birthday. So let's select it. Now it's saying is equal to. Now what we need to do is we need to figure out a way to add today's date and time, or today's date basically. So we'll go to expressions and we will use format. And as soon as you type format, you will see the formulas you have. These formulas are somewhat similar to what you have in Excel. If you have used these formulas in Excel, these might be a bit easier for you to use. So click on format date time. As soon as you open it with parentheses, it will give you a list of parameters it accepts. So it needs a timestamp and then it needs a format. So timestamp will come from UTC now. So let's do that. And for format, we will give DD, and we have 4Ys. Click on OK. So as you can see, the format we have is basically US format. So it has month, then it has 2 dates, then it has the year. If you want to read up more on the date formats, you can go to the IBM website for datetime formats to read more on this. These are just as it is. You don't have to remember these. You can go to this website each time and you can just use these. So you can see we used this one but only had 4Ys, so our would be somewhere here. So let's try to search it. So we had DD and 4Ys. You can see we have this one here, so something similar to this one. Great. Right, so once this is done, let's click on save and let's test our code again. So this filter array should return 2 results. So let's see. Okay, so we have this data body here. This is JSON. So this is the first result. This is the second result. And seems like we have 2 correct results. And if we look at here, we have Harper Castillo and Harper Dominguez. So let's look at here, Harper. And the second is Harper as well. Great. So let's go back to edit. Click on new step. The next thing we need to do is figure out a way how we can pick up a unique image from this location. So for each email, it does not repeat the same image, but it's random. You can continue to expand this directory of yours and it should continue to pick up a random image each time. Great. So I'm going to leave this here. We will come back to this area for the filter array. For now, let's jump on how we can retrieve these images. So as you can see, if you look at the address of any of this image, so if we click on share, you can see we have the HTML information here, which is what we need. So we basically need to give this information from here. This starts from image and still here. So if I just copy and paste this in a notepad, let me show you what I have. This is the actual file location that we need to give in the email body. Now what we will do is we will create or initialize a variable. So let's do that. So you can see it says initialize variable, and we will create a new variable called file list. In type, we will select array because we want to store multiple values. We are going to store location for the 6 image files in the array, and we will call them later using the random function. Let me copy and paste some paths in the array variable, and then I will explain what exactly this means. Next, I'm going to copy and paste path to all 6 image files so we can analyze them and see what we need. So the only unique value from these is from here till here, which is the actual file location. And this is static, and the alt, we don't really need this. We need this border, width and height. So what we are going to do is we are going to save from here till here in a separate variable called array. So let me make size of it smaller. So we are going to pick this from here till here and save this in an array. For the next one, we will again pick up from here till here, save it in an array. What we'll do later is we will simply use concatenate to combine this from here till here. We already have the rest of value inside of the array variable, and then we'll concatenate again this information, that is border, width, height. So click on save. This will get clearer in next few steps. Let's create a new action, compose, data operation. And within this, we will create a new expression that will say rand for random. As soon as you open it, you can see the parameter that accepts minimum value and the max value. So we know that we have 6 images, so we will give from 0 till 5 because this is zero based index. It starts from 0, goes to 5. This is actually translates to 1 through 6. So click on OK. And let's rename this. Let's call it, you can rename the steps as well. It's generally a good idea. So let's call it random number because it's going to store a random number from 1 till 6 in each time it runs. Click on save. Let's add another step. In this step, we will apply the random number onto the array we have and pick one of the files. So let's do that. Once it's done, we will test this and this might be a bit clearer to you then. Compose. And here we will add an expression. Let's say variables. As you know, this is the variable we created, so we can get data from the variable using variables function. So as soon as you type var, you can see this has autofill, open parentheses, and you can see it says variable name, and you can return this information using this. So the variable name was file list, as you saw here. So let me show here again. File list, this was the variable name. Okay, it kind of removed all of it. Let's add it again. So let's say file list, this was the variable name. Next, to extract the data from it, we'll add square brackets and we'll say outputs. This is another function. And then we will use the output of this, which is random number. So we call it, the name of it, random number. Click on OK. Click on save, and let's test our code again to see what results are stored in each of these. So let's test it. Okay, so flow ran successfully. We already knew the data for this. So let's look at initialize variable. You can see you have the values, 6 values you initialized. For random number, this selected 1. From 0 to 5 is selected 1. That's fine. Next time, this will be a different number. In compose action, you can see at one number, we had this file name. So actually, this is 0 based index. So 1 is actually going to be this result. So it picks up xk and this value, cotton row. It means that we were able to pick a random image name from the 6 files we have. Great. So far so good. Let's click on edit and get back to our code. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is you need to get back to the email creation. So we already have the data for this filter array here. Next, let's create an for loop that is apply to each. So let's create a new step because we have multiple results or outputs here. For this case, we have 2 employees with the birthday on the same date. So we need a for each, or you can say apply each loop that will do this 2 times or however many times needed. From actions, apply each. So it says apply to each in control. Select that. So it says select an output from previous steps. Click on it. And for this, we will say body, and we will get this from this step, filter array step, because as you know, from here till here, this is the steps where we get the unique image from the 6 images. So filter array, we need body from filter array. So this is what we need. Add an action, and here we will select email. Let's just type send email, and what we are looking for is send email v2 without the Outlook 365 because I want you to be able to replicate this without having a subscription. So select this, send an email, Outlook v2. Now, the 2 option, we need to figure out a way to get the data from each row that is filtered in the filter array. So we do that by using a custom expression. This is add dynamic content, click on expressions, and here we will say items. If you open it, you can see required the name of the loop whose item you want. This is normally used in for each loop with an array because an array has multiple values. So you need to figure out a way to retrieve value for each loop. So we'll say items, and then we will select the step that is called apply each. This is a bit finicky, but once you start to work on it, you will get the hang of it. Click on question mark to retrieve the value. And now we will simply select the column we want or the name of item we want. So we want is email. So add email here and click on OK. And this should basically return you the email information of the selected row. Because we had two filtered rows, this will loop through two rows and get the data of here. In the subject, similarly, we will do something similar. So we can say happy birthday. And for this case, we need to extract the name. So let's say items. Again, apply each question mark. And then let's look at this one. So we have full name. So this is what we need. Just run it. Add it here. Click on OK. And for email body, I'm just going to leave it as test for now. We just want to test if the above code works fine and generates an email. Click on test manually and click on run flow. Okay, it seems to be running. It's stuck here, so it seems like it ran successfully. Okay, if you look at the outputs, you can say it picked up the two email correctly in first result. In second, it again picked up the two email correctly. Again, as a reminder, all of these rows have the same email information. So it's hard to tell if it's the same row or the different row, but I can tell you that it has picked up correctly. And you can see the two emails have been sent as well to my email ID. Both have test in it. So the bit of a problem is that it did not pick up the name. So you can say it says happy birthday and then we added the full name as well, which it did not pick. So let's save some of the data in our text file and then we'll go from there and look at what's going wrong. So let's copy the body here. And if you observe it, you can see the full name has a different name here. So for spaces, it's kind of replacing it with X0020, right? So it means that we need to actually give this there for it to be able to pick up the name. So let's go back to edit and change this from full name to what it had picked up here. And hopefully this should resolve our issue on update and we should have this updated. Now, next thing we need to do is we need to figure out a way to add data in the body. For that, I already have some of the information. Let me add it here first, and then I will explain you what's going on. So in the body, click on this tag that says code view because you want to paste the code that is HTML formatted. You have a paragraph tag, then you have a strong. This is for bold. If you know a bit of an HTML, you should be able to understand this. If not, that's fine. So what basically it's doing is it's saying dear, and then it has a strong that is making it bold. Then it selects the name. This is full name. Again, you see this is the same thing we've done above. Items, apply to each, and then in square bracket, you give the name there. Now, let's do that. Click on save and let's test it again. First, I'm just going to remove this email loop because this is going to continue to expand the loop or the email trail, and it will make it difficult for us to actually see if we sent the email correctly. So let's do this again. Click on run flow. Done. See if this runs successfully, and seems like it has. Let's go to our Proton email. Click on refresh, and we have two emails. And you can see now it picks up the name correctly. Happy birthday, Harper Dominguez. And in the email body, it picks up the name correctly with it bold as well. Similarly, if you look at the other email, and it did pick up correctly. So last thing we need to do is add an image here. So we simply need to add one of the images from these 6 images. It needs to be random, which we already figured out how to do. We simply initialized a variable, then we initialize another variable with random number, and then we picked up the image based off that random number. So let's go to edit. We basically need to create this whole path. And you also remember that we saved a part of it in our array variable. From here till here, we already saved it in the array. We only need to combine rest of the information with it. So let's add another step here. And let's say compose action, compose. And let's use a concatenate, concat. And concat is very simple. You just give the items that you need to concatenate. So let's do that. So let me add this from here till here. This will be a string. The string in Power Automate is given in single quotes. You might be used to double quotes, but in Power Automate it's single quotes. So the next concat item is the output of this compose, because this saved the actually file name. So let me rename this. Let's call it file picture. Now, okay, just remember that this is each time it's going to remove all of the data. So let's add it again. This is kind of frustrating, but I guess we gotta do this. So for next one, we need to concatenate this here. So this step actually saved the actual file that was randomly picked. And the last step is to concatenate rest of this URL. We already discussed that we don't need the alt one, we can skip it. But we do need this border, width and height. So let's add it in single quotes. Let's add and click on OK. And this concat, as you can see now, it has the image source, then the variable file list output. This will actually replace this section here, and then again it's going to add border, width and height. Right, within our email step, we'll simply add, let's call it image to add, and here we will use dynamic content and add this output, image to add outputs. Click on save. And for the last time, let's test it once more. Let me remove these and let's test it. And this time we should receive 2 emails with 2 unique images as well. Fingers crossed. Right, so flow ran successfully. That's a good sign. Let's look at the emails. First email, very nice. We have the image in there as well. Let's look at the second email. All right, so it seems like it did pick up the same image, which means it has picked up the same random number for each image. So what we need to do is we need to move step where it picks a random number and move it inside the for each loop, so it picks up a new number each time. So we need to figure out a way to add the random number or the rand function inside of apply to each. So what we will do is we'll pick the concat from here, and here where it says it picks up the output from above step, this section here, outputs random number, we will simply replace rand, and here we'll say 0 through 5, and then add this data in here as concat. So expression concat, and within the output we'll simply replace the actual output from this to a real-time random 0 through 5, which means that this will be random for each loop. So let's test this again. I'm going to delete the previous emails. Click on save, click on test, and let's see if we are able to generate a unique image for each birthday email. Click on done. Your flow ran successfully. That's always a good sign. Let's go to emails. Let's look at the first email. Okay, so we have this image, red one. Let's look at the second one, and we have a different image. Now it could be coincidentally a same image for each email, but for the most time this will be a random image. If you have a lot of images like 10, 15, 20, then there is a less chance of image repeating. So that's up to you on how much you want. If you increase the number of images, you simply have to increase it in the rand variable. So if it's 20 images, you will simply do 0 through 19, and then it will pick a random number from those 19 images and attach them in the email body. Alright, so this wraps up the whole flow. We were successfully able to get data from the Google Sheets, insert images to the email body, and send away for each birthday email. I hope this was a fun little project and a practical one as well that you can implement in your organization, and it will help you streamline your day-to-day workload. If you have any ideas or projects you want me to work on, let me know in the comment section. If you have any questions or queries, let me know in the comment section as well. Till next time, happy coding and happy learning.